what you're saying today is not a comfort you had for yourself, right? You were, and I know you and I have spoken about this before, you were bullied, you were taunted, you were not a typical guy in the way that typical guys were meant to be. And there were, there was a lot of discovery and a lot of heartache in that moment, in that journey.
Yeah. Uh, but I have to say that I was raised by very stable, sorted, and very much in love parents.
Yeah.
So I grew up in an atmosphere of love. And nowhere at home was I made to believe that I was unusual as a boy. It's the world outside that used words that called you, like the word in the 80s was pansy, which was translated as a boy who's effeminate. And you're called that word, and that word was
Were you called that?
Yes, a lot. Every time I went out into school competitions, or even like my own building and apartment block was very protective about me. My own school was very protective about me. But we went into school competitions or went outside of our domain where I stayed in my residence.
Yeah.
And there were other boys and girls at my age who would say very mean and rude things. But when I came back home, Barkha,
Yeah.
my dad would say, "Oh, dance," like, to the dance I used to do from the film Sargam. I used to do Jaya Prada's parts, and my father was so proud, and he would make me dance for all his friends.
Yeah.
And not once did he think that this is unusual,
Yeah.
that an 8 or a 9-year-old boy is dancing to Jaya Prada's choreography.
Yeah.
And it's not bizarre, unusual, or strange.
Yeah.
Neither did my mom say anything. And so when I had that stability at home, that's what kept me strong. It kept me protected and kept me sheltered from the worldview. Having said that, when I went outside, there were people who told me, there was a man who told me he was an elocution, he was a public speaker, and he taught people public speaking. And he told me, you sound like a girl. So bring baritone in your voice because the world will be tough.
Who was this person?
I won't mention
No,
his name.
not
either.
name. I mean, who,
He
like...
actually was somebody who ran a public speaking academy, and he actually came, and he was being very...
So you were taking public speaking lessons?
Yes, I wanted to learn it and hone that craft. But what he took me aside and said that you sound a lot like a girl, and it's not going to hold you well in the world. So he started asking me to come to a special class where he would bring baritone in my voice. Now, not something that I would ever advise anyone to do what I went through. But he was being actually compassionate at that point. He was actually trying to help.
Yeah.
But I would tell my dad at home that I'm doing computer classes. Whereas actually I was taking this voice training where I was trying to bring baritone in my voice.
Because you were trying to sound more like a guy or man.
And he said he also taught me how to walk better and train my hands. And he said life is like living in a box, like you keep using your hands like this so that they don't flip and flop. All this I did, all this I did to conform. Today I would never advise. If my son was a certain way, I would say be that way. But at that time, in the 80s, it was a very different time. The joke here is that I told my dad I was doing computer classes and taking money from him for computer classes, and then the computer arrived at our workplace, and my father said, "Here's the computer. You've been doing computer classes. Abhi sikhao hum sabko." And I had never seen a computer in my life, and I didn't know what to say. That I was trying to sound like a man, not learn the computer terminology, and it was rather embarrassing. Because
So what happened then?
So he was very disappointed in me that for 3 years I was going to a class and I knew nothing. But I never told him that's where I was going.
So 3 years you went to a voice coaching class
Yes.
to sound more like a guy.
Yes.
And actually, you know what? You can tell that as a funny story today, but it's actually a sad story.
Yeah, it was not fun because I had to lie to everybody else what I was doing. I would go to this gentleman's
No, and just that you
house,
felt that pressure.
and he
That's
and his
the sad
wife
part.
were very compassionate, and they would make me put things in my mouth, like one steal something or a spoon and go and ooh, and like I was like, at one point when I go back in time and I think about those days, and I was like, yes, they did bring baritone in my voice. Yes, I did start walking more like a man, talking more like, as much as it could be. I'm not saying that I became Rambo overnight, but it was just like, it was better. But I know that this is something that society at that point of time made you feel in a certain way and therefore made you want to correct. Today, you can't correct yourself. You're not flawed. You are who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to be who you are. And you have to be allowed to be who you are.